I'll give you a step-by-step method that will help you understand how to do this. Procedurally, there are 3 steps involved in this process. You may have heard this before. You will probably hear it again. Ms. Rizzo, Ms. Belak, Mr. Moffitt, they all teach the same method. So if you go to one of their classes junior year or senior year, you will find them teaching the exact same method. They might call it something different, but it's the same 3-step method. Some of you are using it already just because it makes sense. Some of you are missing a part of it. First step in using quoted material for support is to introduce the quotation. Many of you are not introducing the quotation. Some students simply drop quotations in the middle of paragraphs with no introduction, no integration whatsoever. What's the problem with that? Let's say I'm reading a separate piece and suddenly I have a quotation dropped from Lepper into the middle of the paragraph with no introduction. I don't know who it's from, what it's about, and what's the effect on me as a reader, David? Confusion. And I'm wondering about the answers to those questions rather than listening to what you're writing. Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as shock. On my part, probably annoyance. On other people's part, if they don't have to read it, alienation. They won't want to read it because they don't understand what's going on. They will not take the time. So, you start off with an introduction. What do you do to introduce? It varies from quotation to quotation, but it could include, and probably should include, the writer or the speaker. David says we wouldn't know that it's Lepper talking. Okay, so explain that Lepper is speaking. You should give me the work if I don't know that already. This method, by the way, works for more than just fictional literature. So let's say I'm talking about, early American political philosophy. In other words, I'm talking about the Founding Fathers and what they had to say about proper governance. And that's what my research paper is about, and that's all I'm talking about. And then I want to quote the Declaration of Independence. I would need to introduce that work because it's not just about the Declaration, it's about a number of different issues. And my introduction might say, Jefferson, in writing the Declaration of Independence, states, and that's all I need from an introduction. I have the writer, and I have the work where that appears. Time and place of the quotation may be relevant. With the Declaration of Independence, it would not be, because my audience knows the context of the Declaration of Independence. But if I'm giving the Lepper quotation, or actually I'll deal with a different quotation. Let's say, let me try to pull something from a separate piece. Oh, let's say I have that image where the boys in the troop train are rolling by. And I say their faces were clean and bright and their uniforms were fresh and they were going places. Telling me where that happened, at what point in the novel, is definitely relevant and absolutely essential. You must introduce that quotation by talking about what's going on at the time. Otherwise, I don't understand how this relates to anything else, relates to the story. You might find that there's other necessary background information for me to understand that quotation. I don't know, because quotations differ, sources differ, and your purposes differ. But those first 3 bullets list most of what you would need. Sometimes you only need one of those bullets. Sometimes the information in one of those bullets is elsewhere in your paragraph or your essay. So if I started my QAR writing talking about a separate piece, I don't need to say in my introduction in a separate piece because I have already established that. But somehow you must introduce that quotation. I need that information. Otherwise, as David mentioned, I will be confused and alienated from your reading. I will not follow you to wherever you are going. Here's your example. As Lepper watches a recruitment film, he sees his beloved pastime, skiing, adapted to Army needs. He accepts this adaptation of skiing, saying, that's my introduction. Notice it ends with a comma. Why does it end with a comma? Oh, I'm sorry? Because it needs one, that's true. But what am I doing that I would end with a comma and not a period? Daniel? The quotation is coming next. And the quotation will be part of that sentence. So it's merging with the introduction. So this introduction is just part of the story. This is just step 1. I have not given the introduction yet. Now, step 2 is the easy part. Include the quotation. However, there's something of an art to this, of doing it really effectively. And by the way, 2 or 3 of you reading your QARs did exactly what I'm about to recommend, and you'll see it when I give them back. I should have complimented you on that, saying something like good integration. So you include the quotation. But when I say integrate it cleanly into the previous introduction sentence, that means try to make the transition from your material to their material as smooth as possible. What slows down transition from idea to idea? In grammar, what would slow down transition from idea to idea? What provides breaks? Commas provide pauses. Periods provide breaks. I do not like periods between your words and theirs. I like commas. Colons are okay too. I like soft stops and pauses. And of course you must cite. So if you noted, yeah, I did not end my introduction. My material there is pausing for a moment. So I will integrate whatever I'm about to write cleanly. Can anybody anticipate what quotation's coming up? Leper watching a recruitment film. Sarah? Yeah. Yep. Everything has to evolve or else it perishes. As Leper watches a recruitment film, he sees his beloved pastime, skiing, adapted to Army needs. He accepts this adaptation of skiing, saying, everything has to evolve or else it perishes. Now listen to the flow, the cleanness of that integration. I know exactly where I am in the novel, and furthermore, the quotation naturally flows from my own writing. The reader is not thinking about your writing, the reader is thinking about your ideas. And that's always what you want to happen. Many of you are not doing that. Please make sure that you include a citation. And there is no P, there is no PG, there is no page, just the number. Not right now. Not promising that I won't, especially after I'm standing here in front of you saying stop doing it. Also notice that the period is placed outside the parentheses because that parenthetical citation, that in-text citation, is part of this quotation, so the period should kind of join that in. Lastly, this is the important thinking part. You need a link. You need to link that to whatever idea it is. What, a topic sentence in a paragraph? Maybe. A claim sentence in an essay? Maybe. Depends upon what you're working on. But there's some third section, some part of your own writing must tell me why I just listened to that quotation. What's the importance? Because in steps 1 and 2, you have not yet done anything important. So once you've presented the quotation, link it to the idea of the paragraph or essay. So justify its inclusion. Explain to me why I just listened to that quotation. Step 3 could be pretty easy and short if you've already done a lot of that work throughout the paragraph. It could take a while if you're really unpacking and exploring what that quotation states. So when we talk about linking to the claim and integration, if I'm looking for integration, obviously that will occur here. As Leper watches a recruitment film, he sees his beloved pastime, skiing, adapted to Army needs. He accepts this adaptation of skiing, saying, everything has to evolve or else it perishes. The statement provides perspective not only on the literal subject of skiing, but on other characters and events. Although Leper only referred to the sport, Knowles intends the reader to apply this general principle to understanding the novel. So I've just said this is a principle that applies elsewhere. This is only part of a writing. I'll probably, what will I do next in this writing? Yeah, apply it to Finney, apply it to Jean, apply it elsewhere. And you can see that because my step 3 is very clear on what I'm doing with this quotation. All right, let's talk about some reminder of some points that I've already gone over and some new points on how you do this properly. First of all, try to make it flow as smoothly as you can. Make it part your sentence, part their sentence. Spend the most thinking time in step 3. Write the most important material in that step. In fact, I've heard people use this method say there should be a 1-to-2 relationship between quotation and step 3. For every 1 sentence in quotation, you have 2 sentences in step 3. So if you have 2 sentences of quotation, you have 4 in step 3. I don't like rules like that because students feel limited by them, but your most important thinking work is done in step 3. Don't over-summarize. Something that really breaks this whole thing down is if you basically say in step 1 what the quotation says also. So if I say in my introduction to the leper statement, leper says that everything must change or else it will die. He says everything has to evolve or else it perishes. Then I'm sitting there as a reader wondering why you include the quotation. If you'll just paraphrase what he said, just paraphrase what he said. You're using a quotation for a specific purpose. So use the quotation. Make sure step 3 links. Make sure step 3 has something to do with your main idea in that paragraph or overall. Questions? Okay, that's pretty fast. So what I'd like to do, of course, is apply this as best we can.